All right, everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil. And guys, in this video, what I want to do is talk about bounty hunters. And we're going to talk about this faction because it is probably the most important faction in the game. And I don't say that lightly. There's just a lot of things in this faction that I think people sometimes maybe misconstrue a little bit, or they watch an endgame video and think that that's the only reason that this faction is good, right? Like one of the big things right now is that Fennec, with the bounty hunters, can beat Lord Vader. But there are so many other ways to use this faction, especially in like the early and mid game, that people I think sometimes don't always cover because it's not as flashy, but in some ways it's even more important because this is a team that will take you to new heights, right? And there's a lot of stuff in here. I mean, you've got Raid Omicrons, GAC Omicron, Territory War Omicron, another GAC, more Territory War, and then you've got a Galactic Legend on top of it all. Just a fantastic, fantastic faction. And honestly, every single one of these characters I'll show you guys, but they're all needed for something in the game, right? They are all needed for something. So that's why I say that this is probably the most important faction. So let's get into this, guys. Now, as always, we must first give Wampa our love. And we're going to say today, you know what, Wampa? You may not have a place in any faction, but you have a place in our heart, and that is so much more important. You are my king. All right, guys. Bounty hunters. Let's talk about them. So the first guy we need to just discuss here, right, is the giant space slug that is Jabba the Hutt. I know a lot of people think he's probably an endgame GL because he just came out, but I would actually say that in my farming guide, you could argue Jabba to be the second GL you get, and I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. He has very similar requirements to Jedi Master Luke, right? They both have they both need Jedi Knight Luke. Jabba does need a few more relic levels than Jedi Master Luke, I think, but they're pretty similar. The thing with Jabba that makes him so good, right, is they've basically added all of these things into the game to get him, right? They gave you a lot of incentive, and so I think that Jabba, getting him early, the earlier the better, honestly. Like, it's just going to propel your roster so much farther. But this is where we get controversial, guys, right? No video is complete without some controversy. These are the 5 most important bounty hunters. And I know what you're thinking. You only see 4 bounty hunters here, but keep in mind that Beskar Armor Mando, the Razor Crest, is a bounty hunter ship, right? We love it. The character Beskar Armor Mando, not a bounty hunter. The Razor Crest, bounty hunter. And now you guys get it, that these 5 are your 5 executor pilots. And that's what makes them the most important. If they weren't pilots, these would not be the 5 most important characters. However, because they are the pilots, they're the 5 most important because they're the ones that you are going to get the most use out of, right? Because some of the requirements for Executor you probably won't use, right? But these guys here, you're going to use them almost every single time you use the Executor. So, Bosk is probably, I have him in the first slot because he's probably the best, right? Boba Fett is the next one on that list that, second best in this team. Definitely more of I'd call him like the best 6th man of the bounty hunters, that if you're going to move some of those top 5 guys to another team, Boba kind of takes their place, right? Bosk's lead is definitely the most versatile lead for bounty hunters, right? It's kind of good for all of them. But Boba Fett, guys, I will say his leadership is really underrated. Critical damage, crit chance, right? But the speed for debuffed enemies, and then this health equal to potency is good, but really this 15% turn meter whenever a thermal detonator explodes, you use him with like Bush Leia, Zam, Greedo, Dengar, even Cad Bane with his contract. He can be a very good leader for bounty hunters. It's kind of a sneaky team. So I wanted to throw that out there, right? Wanted to show you guys those 2 things. IG-88 gets this 3rd slot because he can be used in like a General Grievous nuke team. He can get use with shorty droids. So just a little bit more viability than somebody like Cad Bane, who really kind of just like a D-tier bounty hunter, right? If you throw him in a slot, he's not going to do horrible, but he's not going to do great either. Obviously, Beskar Armor Mando just is there for the ship. So let's go to our next tier, right? The amazing butt category. So, I will say, let me go back here real quick. I will say, so Bosk is only a requirement for the Executor, right? As far as relic levels go, but you need the Houndstooth for the Finalizer, and you need it for the Raddus, right? Holdo ship, and he's probably the best ship in the game, the Houndstooth. Boba Fett is a requirement for Jabba the Hutt and Executor. IG-88, just Executor. Cad Bane is a requirement for Jedi Master Kenobi. Also remember that these ships here are how you get the Millennium Falcon, right? They're the ones that are required for that. So again, more incentive to get them. All right, down here. Beskar Armor, the OG Mandalorian Grief Karga, you need them to get Beskar Armor Mando, but they're also amazing. They're two of the best bounty hunters. I would say they're definitely solidly inside of the top 5 at all times, right? They're just that good. Fennec is probably inside of that top 5 as well. She's really, really good. Obviously, you guys know she can beat Lord Vader with the right team comp. The thing is with her, though, that people don't cover a lot. She's a solo artist. So if you get her early in the game, you get her to good gear levels, she can solo a lot of teams. Like that's another way to use Fennec, right? It's in her kit about, I think it's in her. Yes. So look, she gains all these bonuses, right? And they're reduced for each ally present at the start of battle. So the more that, you can like have missing allies with her, the better she is. Django is in this tier because he has so many good tags, right? But even as a bounty hunter, like he is very good. There's a lot of teams that he slots into with these bounty hunters that just makes him phenomenal. Probably the best plug and play character in the game that's not like Wat Tambor kind of thing, right? Like that's just how good I view Django. He just slots into so many different teams. All right, the next tier, guys, Omicron dependent, right? So Zam is a Galactic Legend requirement for Lord Vader. Boba Fett Sign of Django is the only bounty hunter who's not explicitly required for any kind of wreck in the game. The thing is with him that he is completely dependent upon his Territory War Omicrons, at which case he can challenge Galactic Legends. I will say the one problem with Dad Bod Boba is I think he's lost a little bit of value with Datacrons because he was meant to counter Galactic Legends, right? Like Lord Vader. He was able to beat Lord Vader for a while. But obviously with the Datacrons, that kind of went away because of how ridiculous the Lord Vader Datacron was, right? But Datacrons boosted Galactic Legends stats, just like they're boosting his. But that's not really parity when his stats weren't comparable to a Galactic Legend as it was, right? They're not quite comparable. So you already have, there's no equality there, and then you're giving them stat boosts, which means the Galactic Legends are gaining even more on him. So he's still a good character, definitely something that I know a lot of top-level guilds use him a lot in Territory Wars. So if you're looking for some good Territory War Omicrons, he's definitely somebody to look at. Again, very endgame, but I do want to mention him in here just because, this is a bounty hunter guide. All right, this next category here, the We Want Jabba category. So Bush Leia and Chrysanthemum are requirements for Jabba. Embo is a requirement for Lord Vader. Here's the thing, though. Their best uses with Jabba. That's not saying that you can't use them. As I mentioned, you could use Bush Leia with, Boba Fett, right, to get those thermal detonators exploding. I mean, Embo does have a pretty decent Territory War Omicron, but again, really best used with Jabba the Hutt again. And then Chrysanthemum's kind of the same thing. He's not a bad character, just you really only see him get used with, Jabba the Hutt, right? Obviously, you guys can see that I've really taken mine very seriously, just kind of getting him to the point that he could use his unique here. So we took him to the best level we could. I'm not trying to say that these are bad bounty hunters. They're just, once you get Jabba the Hutt, these characters become amazing, right? These characters become so much better. And so it's something to think about, right? That, as you're working through, you might think they're a little bit lackluster, and then all of a sudden you get Jabba, and they're amazing. All right, so this last tier of characters. These are just Rex for GLs. Now, Dengar, obviously just an executor requirement, right? Aura Singh, a requirement for Jabba. Greedo, a requirement for Jabba. Aura does have a very good leadership. I'm not going to pretend that she doesn't, right? The thing is, her leadership has kind of fallen down a little bit. It's the easiest contract to get, right? That's why everybody uses her, right? Use an ability while buffed. It's very, very easy. The thing with her is that outside of, you're only using her for the contract. It's not like she's, that great of a character that, she makes that team better. She's really just there for an easy contract. So a lot of people will took her to, Gear 11 just to use her contract. So I don't want to put her any higher than where she really belongs, is that you're not going to relic her unless you're going for a Galactic Legend. Same thing with Dengar. Dengar's a good character, not earth-shattering, right? He's got some good uses, especially under the Boba Fett with the thermal debts. but not someone that you should be rushing to go relic, right? And then the same thing with Greedo. We do call him no cap Greedo because if you technically look at this ability, which I don't even have, I don't even remember what these are called anymore. Omegas, because I don't even have to pay attention to them anymore. But so the thing is, right, with Greedo, you're not going to be relicking him until you need him for Jabba. But the reason you call him no cap Greedo is because when attacking, where's it at? Is it his unique? Yeah, so he has a 50% to a chance to attack again when he scores a critical hit, no cap, right? So this is unbelievably good. That like I've seen him hit, up to 10 times in a row, but technically speaking, he could attack for forever, right? I've never seen, like craziness from him, but technically he has no cap to how many times he can use his basic in a turn, right, in a row. So that's the listing, guys, right? These are the tiers. I forgot to mention up here that Fennec is a requirement for Jabba and Jango is a requirement for Jedi Master Kenobi. So again, you guys see the only character in this list who's not needed for anything is the GL for Territory Wars, right? Boba Fett, Sign of Jango. Every other character is either an Executor requirement, a Galactic Legend level requirement, or if you're, OG Mando and Grief Karga, you need them for Beskar Mando, who inadvertently is required for the Executor. And so they're all important characters. They're all useful. My recommendations for you guys, right? My recommendations as far as how to use these characters to their fullest potential, right? Early on, Bosk and Boba Fett are the play. And then, OG Mando, Grief, and Jango kind of get you a team, right? Like these are the top early game bounty hunters, I would say. Then you want to work on your Executor Rex, right? Which means IG, Cad Bane, and Dengar, right? You want to get them. You want to get the Executor. Then when you start doing some of these more like passion projects, right? Some good ones would include like Fennec, get Zam up and running, right? Just start thinking about how to work your bounty hunters into those farms, and you guys are going to get so much use out of this faction. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below. I love every single one of you. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.